Animation is back. What do you get when you add pizza, skateboarding, rats, and ninjas? Well, a really bad acid trip, but also a really awesome movie. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, helmed in large part by Seth Rogen. Now, look at his entire decades of filmography, including Sausage Party, and tell me that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was not a logical next step for him. I mean, this is a classic peanut butter and chocolate situation we're talking about here. He's got his little fingerprints all over this movie, even more than Pizza Hut had its greasy little fingers all over the original TMNT movies. So without further ado, let's start with the plot. So we're starting with the plot of this movie because honestly, I don't feel like the plot of this movie is what the focus is. I would say this movie is more of a comedy that has a plot kind of built in there, but it wasn't so much the sole focus. Turns out the movie about mutant amphibians who wear bandanas on while they fight crime would not turn out to be a Citizen Kane. But I have to say, I was really surprised by this movie. What this really is a story about discrimination. A scientist, Baxter Stockman, tests radioactive ooze on various different animals, turning them into anthropomorphic mutants. On the one hand, you have our turtles, who are mutants who essentially they just want to be accepted by society. They just want to fit in with everyone, but they keep dealing with all this discrimination against them, and they can't show their faces. On the other hand, you have the mutants, the bad guys of this movie, who have dealt with discrimination their entire life, and instead of wanting to fit in the same as the turtles, they more want retribution against the humans for treating them the way that they've been treated. And to be honest with you, it's a little hard to fault them for that. And I think that these two parallels create a very interesting dichotomy between the two groups. And I think it really shows the effects of discrimination on different groups of people. How some people, maybe they just want to overcome it and integrate with society, and some people, they get vengeful and they want to push back. And obviously this is a very dark theme, especially for a kids movie, but I think it handles it very well and with a lot of tact. I think it's simple enough that kids can understand it, but complex enough that adults can get something from it and stay engaged throughout the whole movie. All in all, it ends up being a very serviceable plot that teeters maybe a little bit on some oversimplification, but pulls it together in the end to good effect. The plot, however, is not the strength of this movie. That, we must go over to the characters. So of course, when talking about the characters, I have to start with the turtles themselves. And let me just say, for the first time, I think ever, the turtles actually feel like teenagers. It's in the name, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. However, a lot of times they don't necessarily feel that way. This time they do, and you can see it everywhere. And I think it's also where you can really see Seth Rogen's influence come into play. For example, Leo is not actually a turtle in this movie, but a horn dog. And everything else about their characters, their voices, the way they interact with one another and talk over one another, their relationship with Master Splinter, it all feels very genuine. It actually feels like teenagers. And in movies that are supposed to be about teenagers, this is kind of an uncommon thing, and it was nice to see. The turtles are what bring the soul to this movie, the cheese to the pizza, if you will. And Master Splinter, well, he had me in splinters the whole time. I think Master Splinter was by far the funniest character in this entire movie. Voiced by Jackie Chan, he did a fantastic job bringing this character to life. And also, every time you saw him on screen, you just kind of felt for him a little bit. He was so much just an average father trying to do well by his kids and keep them safe, but also trying to give them freedom. And I think that's a story that a lot of fathers in the audience will probably relate to. And of course, we have April O'Neil. April O'Neil, I think, has probably been one of the characters who's gone through the most iterations over the years, and I think this one was really well done. She herself is also a teenager, same as the Turtles, and she's also going through some very similar struggles that they are. Maybe not so much with being a mutant, but still trying to fit in with society, fit in with her peers. And I think that parallel with the Turtles was a really well done way to kind of carry the plot forward and align the motivations with the themes, with the plot, and it all tied together very nicely. And finally, we have the other mutants of this movie, who are the bad guys for this movie. And I would list them all, but there's too many. But despite this, I never felt like a single one of them was wasted. Every single mutant at some point had their moment to shine. They had their comedic moment that then stuck itself in everyone's brains. And so whenever they showed up for the rest of the movie, you were happy to see them and you remembered who they were from earlier in the movie. And a lot of times with movies like this that have so many characters, it can kind of weigh down the plot and kind of muddy things. I didn't really feel like that happened this time. Everyone had their purpose and you felt that. The characters in general were by far the highlight of this movie. If you were to follow these characters around for another hour, like an episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, I wouldn't have complained a single bit. But maybe that's also because this movie is just so gosh dang pretty to look at. So it's no surprise where this movie gets its influences. It wears it on his leathery green skin. Spider-Verse has single-handedly revolutionized and revived the entire animation industry. Gone are the days of pristine 3D animation in which everyone looks like they've been run through Facetune 50 times too many. Now we have this beauty. It's ugly, but it's beautiful. Much like what my mom says about me. TMNT Mutant Mayhem follows in the lead of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish and Mitchell vs. the Machines, and much like those movies, it adds its own kind of personal flair to it. In this case, every character kind of looks like a rough sketch, like they were just very quickly drawn onto a piece of paper. The lines are uneven and they move around. Everything's constantly moving. It would have been very easy for this to get overwhelming or overbearing, but they handled it with a lot of tact. It adds unbelievable personality and life to every single scene on the screen. And I don't expect this to be for everyone, but you can't deny it's unique, and that alone in this day and age is worth praising at least a little bit. So in conclusion, this movie is a total hell yeah for me. Gorgeous animation, great messages, relatable characters, and buckets full of heart are all ingredients on this wonderful pizza pie. I strongly recommend you go see this in theaters for yourselves. I'm willing to bet you'll have a fantastic time at it. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.